Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening in. You are about to hear the recording from our Zoom happy hour on RON, or Remote Online Notarization. The speakers are Michelle Maxie, Director of Operations, and Tammy Leach, Director of Operations. The recording begins while Tammy is speaking. Please let us know if you have any questions.
And how we're looking at some other providers to be able to provide this to actual lenders who want to do full-on closings.
All right, can everyone hear me? I'm assuming so. All right. Well, in order to get set up, it's not just a process of getting your seals and getting things set up through the platform. There's also a lot of research that's involved. So title first, we have to go through and make sure that the documents can be recorded at the county recorder's office. We also have to check with our underwriters to make sure that they're going to allow it and if they have any special requirements. Right now we're focused on doing a lot in Ohio, but our national division is also focused on doing it in all of the other states. So a lot goes into that, making sure that each of those counties are available to accept remote online notarized documents. And whether or not you can accept a notary in one state while the person is in another state. So each state has their own rules. So it's all governed by each of the separate states. So that causes, quite a bit of information. You've got to be able to compile everything together and be able to communicate that with your lenders, with your clients. Make sure that each of your clients are, your customers are okay with doing an online notarization. So, there are a whole host of entities that have to, do their sign off for the process to work its magic. Between the county offices, the state, the notary, your lender, your title company, your underwriters, everyone has to be all on the same page for it to work. But from the closings that we've done so far, it is a pretty nice process and a very good way to keep all of our customers safe. Tammy, did you have anything else you wanted to add as far as getting up and running, the research that was involved, or should we jump straight into what the customers should expect?
I think there were just some other things where, we had to find out what some of the laws were in each state and each county, because certain states were allowing you to, for instance, Virginia was saying that you could be in Virginia and be a Virginia notary and notarize in other states, where Ohio will not allow that, where you actually have to be an Ohio notary in the state of Ohio to be able to sign for property in the state of Ohio. So we definitely want to make sure that, regardless of where the people are, that they realize that if it's an Ohio property, it has to be an Ohio notary. And we actually have another client that's scheduled to sign on Monday in New Hampshire, where they've been hunkered down, but they're coming to Ohio and buying a property here. So we're going to online sign them come Monday. And because the property is in Ohio, we're able to do that for them. So just making sure that we understand what the rules are from state to state and, gathering the proper research, like Michelle said. And she spent hours, truly hours, trying to get us to make sure we're doing everything legal in each state for each entity.
So yeah, and it's an ever-changing process. We get different bulletins from different underwriters and different states every day, throughout the day, that says, okay, well, now we're extending this, temporary time frame, or now we're going to, we're going to allow this, additional type of signing, for either a period of time or permanently. So it's trying to make sure you've got all the information, and we've got a good network of underwriters that are helping us out with this, and we also have, our own employees that have consolidated all of the information into a network drive, so that we can make sure that we're doing the right thing for our customers and they're not going to run into any issues during the closing process.
Do you want us to discuss how many notaries we have right now? So currently for Title First, we actually have 3 raw notaries in Central Ohio that have been certified. They have their e-seals, and we're now working with a platform. We are looking at an additional platform. We have performed a few of these, and we have a few more scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
We're using Nexus currently, and we're working with Pavo. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, Pavo is a secondary platform that we're working with right now through the contract phase. We should be ready to close with Pavo within the next week or so, which will, allow us to not only, do our own closings that we have, for our sellers or for a cash closing, but we are going to run into when a lender wants to request a specific platform for their closings to be added to. And Pavo has been included in numerous lists for some of our clients. So it'll be good to have a wide range of platforms that we're able to work through.
Okay.
So most of the platforms that are out there, they all serve the same purpose, and all are fairly similar in how they act for your customers. So you're not going to see a big difference between platform to platform. Most of them will involve your customer logging on, getting a PIN, be able to use that PIN to affix their signature to the documents. They all have those similar traits. So even if you've got one customer using Pavo and another one using Nexus, we do have guides to help your customers through this, because this is something new for them too. And we're trying to make it just as simple as possible for them, so that it takes away that nervousness or the any apprehension about that. So.
And that is the one thing that we will say is there are several requirements that the clients will need in order to do a RON. So I think one of the biggest challenges that we've seen with the clients that we've offered this to is having an actual either laptop that is camera available, so they have the webcam, because that is one of the requirements for the state of Ohio, is that this is recorded and that the recording is not broken, because they want to make sure that when we verify who the people are, that once that recording starts, that they are completely signed all the way through every single document without an interruption in that video. So that is highly important, and that is probably one of the biggest pieces of equipment that they have to have, is an actual webcam device, and it has to be either a laptop or an iPad. They also have to have and I know this sounds silly in this day and age, but an actual smartphone. And I know that some of our clients don't use smartphones. We actually have a couple of employees that don't have smartphones or use smartphones. So, but you have to have a smartphone. And part of that, I know it sounds hilarious, but welcome to 2020, right? So you got to have that smartphone, because that's part of the verification process of the identification. So they have to have a driver's license, and it has to be valid. We're running into some of that right now because the Bureau of Motor Vehicles have been closed. So they have to have that valid driver's license. They have to have that smartphone. They have to have the webcam, laptop or iPad. And those items have to be with them at that time when they're actually logging in. And then we provide them with, like Michelle said, the PIN that gives them access to get into the meeting. And we also provide them with a link to that meeting. And once they are able to get past the verification process of downloading their driver's license from their smartphone through the app to the system, then they have 5 questions that they have to answer. And anybody that's done any type of online application or trying to set up your online banking, those, you know what those questions are. It's typically, did you live at this address, or did you own this car? And they have to answer those questions accurately, and they only have 2 minutes to answer the questions. So once they get their ID uploaded and it's been accepted, and then once they actually answer the authentication questions and those are accepted. Then they go into what's called the lobby, and they're able to see the actual notary. And then from that point, we're able to communicate with them like we're doing today through Zoom. So we know we can say, hi, how are you doing? We're here to notarize your documents, explain who we are. Obviously, either we've had communication with them prior to this or the processor has, so that they know that they're going to meet with Michelle or me or Edie or whatever other notaries that we have that decide to go through and become a RON. And they get to meet with us through the camera. We say hi and we get them to, go through, and we'll bring the document up actually on the screen, and they're allowed to review it. We walk them through what it is, and then they will actually click the button and it actually e-signs it that way. So we're also trying to limit how long the videos have to be. So we're trying to only have them sign the documents that require a notary. So anything else that can be e-signed through DocuSign or digital docs, we send to them prior, and we're only sending them the documents that have to be notarized, just in case that video would happen to break. This would limit that video time that they have to be in front of us as the actual notary. Anything else to add, Michelle?
Well, I wanted to add a little bit to, when they after they answer those identification questions, what that process does is it takes the name and it scans the ID, it takes the information from the back of the ID, and it sends it through, something like a LexisNexis or a platform like that, they the typical questions that they get are, what was the street that you lived on when you were 8 years old, or something that, only you would know, but you have like 5 questions or so that you would answer. And most platforms make you answer at least 4 of the 5 correctly, or else you have a second try. And if you fail the second time, then you have to wait a certain amount of time before you can actually reschedule, like 24 hours. So, but if it is you, you should be able to answer those questions. And then after that portion of it, and you're actually face-to-face through the computer with your notary, they show a copy of the driver's license to the notary, and the notary can then see the person that's on the other side of that camera and validate that ID matches to that person, so you actually have a good identification even though that person's not right there with you. So so that's how we can secure it, and how this is a good way of validating the identity of the person that's in front of you, and without being right in front of you. Let's see.
I have a question.
Sure.
This is Carson. What if we have a client who's not so technical savvy? Can we send over a link to a family member, a relative that could actually go through and help them with that? Because I've got that question a few times, and I wanted to go ahead and address that.
Certain platforms, and I don't know all platforms that are out there, but most of the platforms have the ability to add someone as a visitor into the closing, so that you can send them a link, and that they can, not have signature privileges or anything like that, but they can just be there on the call as well. So, a lot of times if you want to invite the realtor in or the loan officer in, or even the closing manager that's worked with the customer for the last several weeks, you can invite them in, even if you have a different notary on, that's conducting the notarization process for that file. So the good question, Carson. There's, different ways that we can keep other people involved in this process as well.
Also, I think, Carson, you're saying like, if I was with my parents, and I know my mom is technically challenged, I could be at her home with her, not as the notary, but as her daughter, if she was going to RON sign with Michelle, and I could help walk her through how to scan her ID from her iPhone that she barely knows how to use, and actually scan it in and upload it through the app to their application, so that they can confirm that yes, she is who she is. And then, when the questions come up, read them to her or help her, maybe not give her the answers, but let her answer those questions, and make sure that her computer is up and that her webcam is on. just so that she could, do that. So if you do have somebody that is a little technically challenged, but they have a child or a grandchild that could help walk them through, they are able to do that. It's just that person would have to be there to actually, again, show their ID, be in front of the video with the notary, so that we can confirm they are who they say they are, and they would have to be the ones to actually e-sign the documents. But if they are technically challenged and they need some assistance, they definitely can have that assistance.
And another suggestion that I've heard from some training that I've been through on some of the platforms is get your customer on the phone, give them a phone call and say, hey, I'm going to help walk you through. If they're having difficulty walking through the process, just say, hey, this is what's going to happen first. And you're going to look in the bottom left-hand corner and you're going to click on that button right there and just walk them through it step by step so that, it takes out that anxiety, for people that aren't as comfortable on computers. So have that voice on the other end of the line. So.
Do we have any questions that we could answer for anybody?
I see you've got a chat. Is there anyone on the chat? Are there questions there?
Or you could press down the space bar and ask a question without having to send it through chat, if that's easier.
So I do have a couple questions. I'll actually introduce myself. My name is Katie Fox. I actually work for Ruoff Mortgage. I know Jessica. I really appreciate her inviting me onto this. I think this is absolutely fantastic what you guys are doing. There's not a lot of other, at least that I know of, a lot of other title companies that are trying to push this type of closing right now. And our mortgage company, we're really trying to set the bar, at least in the Midwest region, of the technology piece of it. So we've already been doing the e-closings on our side for probably close to a year now, where the customers will e-sign 95%. They'll sign all of the lender documents before they actually get to you guys, which I think just helps speed up the process for everybody. I mean, when the customers their closings only take 10 to 15 minutes, where they truly are only signing the notarized documents, I think that's a win-win for everybody. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, you do get those customers who are not technically savvy. I actually have one closing today, and it's an older gentleman. He didn't even know how to send an email from his phone. So it's, for those people, you kind of have to hold their hands. But for most everybody else, they kind of know how to work a computer, a webcam. Most of them maybe need a little bit of help. But my question is, I know on our side of things, on our mortgage side, our company, we are trying to push to get this type of closing. We're trying to get licensed on our end for all of the states that we are in. Most of it, again, we're a smaller mortgage company. We're particularly Midwest, but we do have offset, Colorado, Virginia, Utah, California. We've got some other states here and there, but predominantly we do most of our business in the Midwest. And we actually just had a phone call on this from our CFO 2 weeks ago, that they are trying to push this as quickly as possible, but they're projecting that we won't be able to get licensed until like sometime in June, maybe hopefully sooner. But are you seeing, from what you guys have done so far, are there a lot of other mortgage companies that actually are kind of embracing what you guys are trying to do right now?
I can answer that. Well, we're working with several lenders that are trying to get this off the ground. We don't have the lender portion of it completely. I mean, in order for the lender part to work, you've got to worry about the note. The e-note has to have an e-vault, because it's no longer a piece of paper that you have. It's an electronic thing out there that is it's a security that can be sold. And what we've suggested so far to some of our lender clients is you can as long as their legal team approves of it, we can do everything except for the note. So we can get the mortgage notarized. We can get all of the rest of the documents except for that note, and that note, they would do a papering out process. They do a wet signature on that. It's up to the lender then to determine, what that means for funding. But you'd watch them sign the note, and then they either overnight it, and I don't know if funding would happen the next day. That's all, things that would have to be determined by the legal teams. But until, I think what you're referring to when you say it's going to take until June is the process of getting that e-vault set up. I'm assuming. I may be wrong there, but
I don't know all the terminology, the legal jargon of it. And I probably was only paying half attention to the phone call a couple weeks ago when they were talking. So that's kind of a fair assumption. Yeah. But so, I do know that we have most of this, so we're trying to get pushed through as quickly as we possibly can, right, so we can start working with title companies like you guys to do these type of closings. So. And it may be something that you guys do in a phased approach, like like what you did before is you've got most of your documents electronically signed through like a DocuSign process, and then you have everything else signed through the RON process, and except for the note. And then maybe, a couple of months down the road, when you have everything set up, with that e-vault, you'll be able to do everything through the computer. Perfect. But, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I was just going to say, so at what point, like, I want to be able to get somebody from our company to get in contact with you guys to try to figure out a way where we can really kind of get ahead of this process. So once everything kind of falls in place, that we're like ready to rock and roll. So who's the best person for me to at least reach out to for you guys, so I can get you in contact with the person on our side?
I can help with the technical aspects of that. So if you want your rep to give my number to you, that's fine. I'd be more than happy to help you out with that.
I'll circle back with you, Katie, and
yes, perfect.
We can figure that out.
Thank you.
We actually have seen a couple of other lenders that are doing more of a similar type process to probably what you're doing, Katie. They're doing what we would call more of a hybrid type transaction, where they're signing portions of the documents through different platforms, and then they're papering out certain other, like the mortgage and some of the other documents, the note typically. And again, those closings take 10, 15 minutes max. Where they're only signing, maybe 20 papers versus, a stack like that. So it's been kind of nice to see that. And I know in the last couple of weeks, we've had 2 lenders that have requested us to sign up through the vendor that they're using for that service.
It looks like
I keep forgetting to unmute. Sorry. I just on our end, at least with the customers, it's so nice. I came from Chase, and I spent years at Chase, and they're such a large company, but they're nowhere near being able to do stuff like this yet. Too much legal stuff on their end. But this company that I just moved over to a few months ago, again, the technology piece of it, when I found out that we could do these things, I was absolutely floored. I mean, for those people that want to be able to take advantage of this is unbelievable. My personal opinion, this is absolutely fantastic. So I'm super excited about it.
So I see a question right now in the chat. The question is, who's responsible to maintain the recording, and how's it recorded? So actually, this is a great question. In Ohio, in almost every single county so far, we are required to do what's called papering out. So when we do the e-signing with your customer, we actually are required to print out a paper copy. So paper. And then we actually have to attach, which is kind of funny, a authentication certificate that the RON notary has to sign, and it has to be then notarized by an actual notary who's different from the RON notary. So we actually are papering out those documents that are being signed electronically, and then the RON notary signs the authentication certificate, and then another notary notarizes that document. We attach it to the paper document, and then we forward it on to the county to have it recorded. So we actually are maintaining the recording. The recording of the actual notarization piece, if that's what you're referring to, That notary recording is actually being saved as part of the notary's journal, and it's being stored with the vendor. So if we use Nexus ClearClose as our vendor for that specific transaction, they are actually storing our notary recording as part of our notary journal on their platform. So if there's ever a question as to how it was authenticated, were the parties really who they say they were, did they answer the questions, did we get the identification, and the interaction, the video interaction, that is actually stored by Nexus ClearClose as part of the notary's journal. So hopefully that answered your question, Anthony. Thank you.
Oh, and Anthony, I'll add on to that a little bit more. That's only going to be for the counties that don't accept certain forms of recording or e-recording. So when you have your deed, right now it's, right now like Franklin County doesn't yet include transfer of the deed and taking it over to the recorder's office for the recordings to be sent together. So, but if you're only handling a refinance transaction, you could actually take the recording document from the platform and store it and simple file it, and then it's all an electronic process. So until all of the counties get on board with all of this electronic transfer and electronic recording, there's the ability to paper out like the process that Tammy said. I think the ultimate goal though is for it all to be electronic and not to have to print out that piece of paper and have it notarized and sent along to the county. But who's responsible to maintain that recording? It's similar to the process, as we stated before. We're going to still get that copy to the customer after the closing. It'll be a printout though, instead of the actual signed document, but it'll have all of the electronic verification on there. So,
is there anybody else that has a question? If you do, just hold down the space bar and it'll unmute you temporarily.
I just had a question sent over to me. For Ron, are the prices generally the same as roundtable closings? What's the difference in that?
At this point, I don't think we're charging anything different between Ron and roundtable. We're still, meeting with the customer. We're still, using the technology. There's still, a cost of doing business. So at this point, we're not charging anything additional to do the Ron. We're just basically trying to keep everyone safe and save time and save travel costs. But again, there's still the platform costs and there's still the cost to actually become a Ron notary. It is not a cheap, expense or a cheap investment. It's definitely, there is a cost to do business, to get licensed with the state of Ohio, take the education portion of that, and continue to have the platform with the electronic journal for the notary, and so forth. So at this point, there's not any, savings, but there's no additional cost to do it.
I would also like to add on to that though, if we are doing this for a refinance closing, there may be an additional cost depending on how the documents come to the system, because in order to get it electronically signed, you have to add what they call electronic tags to all of the documents. And if you have, depending on how many of the lender documents, and if it's us that have to do the tagging on it, there could be additional costs involved there. If we're doing it for a seller and there's just one or two documents, there wouldn't be any additional costs, like Tammy had said, for the closings that we had done before. But once we get into doing this for refinances or for full-blown purchase transactions where we're doing this for the buyer, it would make a difference if the lender had uploaded it and had already tagged it, or if we had to go in and tag it ourselves, because it does take, a good half hour, 45 minutes to get those tags in the right spot and make sure that everything is going to be signed in the right spot. So you may see some of that, but if it's just one or two documents, like for the purchase transactions, there wouldn't be additional costs.
we know that not every client's going to qualify for the RON closing. Do we want to touch base on the other types of e-signatures that we can provide and any other types of closings that we can provide to our clients if they don't qualify for RON?
Sure. I mean, you mean during this time where we want to keep our social distancing? Is that what you're referring to? Sure. Well, Tammy, did you want to go into what we've done to our offices themselves? And then,
Sure.
Okay.
Certainly. So what we've been doing is we have gone to actually telework or remote work, which I think a lot of you are now doing. I can see a lot of you are working at home. Nice to see everybody. But so we've sent a lot of our staff home. A lot of them are working home. I would say probably right now somewhere between 80 and 90% of our staff are actually working from home. Within each office, we have put in plexiglass shields on every conference room table so that when the clients come in, they feel safe when they're actually meeting with the notary because there is a barrier between them. We have hand sanitizer on every single closing room table or as they're entering into the office. I know at the Upper Arlington office, it's actually sitting on the counter right as they walk in the front door. It's like right there. And then there's one also sitting on the conference room table. We have eliminated pens and candy jars in our offices. I know everyone likes candy, but it's also a place where germs can meet. So we give pens out that come out of a plastic bag. So we know they come straight from our manufacturer. They've sent to us in a plastic bag. We actually bring the bag out and kind of roll the pens out to the customers because they are blue. As long as the customer brings a blue pen, they're happy to allow them to use theirs. But again, we have to have the blue pens. So we give them the pens. We have our plexiglass shields. We have hand sanitizer. We're also taking from them their driver's licenses, and we are disinfecting them. So we're taking them either in a disinfectant wipe or, in our hands, we're taking disinfectant and cleaning their IDs before we're putting them on the copy machine. And then we're drying them back off and giving them back to the customer, letting them know, hey, we've disinfected your driver's license. My hands are clean. We're using hand sanitizer constantly. Just so they know we're doing everything that we can to keep them safe. We're also disinfecting every single closing room in between every closing. So we're not only wiping down the tables and our plexiglass shields, we're wiping down every single chair. So we're taking the arms of the chairs, the backs of the chairs, trying to make sure that we are as safe as we can and making sure, anything that was touched by someone has been at least wiped down with a disinfectant spray, and we're using a commercial disinfectant spray. We're also doing car closings, which are fun. It's been real fun doing car closings. We're either standing up next to the car and giving them the documents and only watching them sign the notarized portion of the documents, or we're handing them the documents and going like inside the office and watching them sign through the window. So we have a duplicate copy and we're calling them on a phone and walking them through them, or being in a car parked next to them in the parking lot. And again, they have a copy package, we have a copy package, and we're walking them through the documents. We've done that. I can't even tell you how many times. I know all of our notaries have done that over the last several weeks. We've also gone to homes and sat on front porches. Worn masks, not worn masks, worn gloves, whatever the customer is comfortable with or whatever they've requested. So we've really tried to go above and beyond to not only keep ourselves safe, but to keep the client safe and make them feel comfortable with the situation. Because we know with the way that the world is right now, a lot of people are not comfortable. They're very high intensity. They're just kind of not sure what's going to happen, and they want to make sure that they're safe. And we're just trying to ease that and make them feel comfortable, and just trying to let them know, we're here for you, whatever you need us to do. We've done a few pregnant women. Actually, I've done some of those closings. And one couple, they had gloves on. I said, if you'd like me to wear gloves, I'm happy to. So I put on gloves and a mask and took them the documents in gloves and a mask, and stood outside their car and watched them sign. So it's been fun. It's been interesting. But anything that we can do to, ease the nerves, make sure that they feel comfortable, keep them happy, we've done, but we've also gone above and beyond to make sure that we continue to sanitize the offices on a regular basis. We've sanitized carpets at the corporate office and had the carpets clean just to make sure everything was secure. and sanitize. We're also going in every night and wiping down door handles and, the restrooms at all the locations to make sure that everybody stays safe. Not only the employees, but also all our customers. So.
And something to note that goes along with what Katie had said, we're trying to make the experience as short as we possibly can for the customers in order to limit that interaction. So whatever documents we're able to, we're doing through like a DocuSign process. So even if it's not a remote online notarization piece, we're trying to, anything that needs to be signed that can be signed electronically, such as our documents, we're getting those sent out. We, can also have them upload documents to us directly through that process. And, we could have them send us their IDs that way as well. So any, thing that we can do to try to, limit the interaction, even though we love our customers and want to be around them, this is the time that we need to try to figure out additional ways to protect them.
And we've done a lot of trying to keep people from having to come back into the offices. So if we have a lot of the sellers like to pre-sign, as many documents as we can have them pre-signed through DocuSign or digital docs. We're sending out those emails to limit their exposure when they're in here, maybe just to sign the deed and the affidavit. And then again, maybe the disbursement of proceeds. So we've been waiving a lot of wire fees just to make sure the customers don't have to come back in to get their proceeds. We'll waive that wire fee so that we can make sure that they get their money. They've signed the form. They don't have to come back and sign that form, and they'll get their funds as quickly as possible. So we've been doing some of that also, at least some of the transactions I've been doing and some that I've seen from some of the other notaries.
Do we have any further questions?
Hi, it's Brenda. Just wondering, what are the percentages of the closings you're doing this RON program with? I think it's great that you're doing it. I appreciate it.
It's not a high percentage that we're doing right now. It's something that's brand new. It's trying to, we're trying to promote it so that more people can use it. And we're trying to remove as many limitations for our customers as possible. But, they do have to have, we do have checklists that have, what the, technical requirements are, as far as having, the so many, megabits per second upload power and everything. So, but it's something that, we do want to push that, it's just something else that we can provide for our customers. And I would love to see it used a lot more than it is right now. And I think that as more people get comfortable with it and know that it's something that will help them out, I think that we'll have more percentage of people using it. But thank you, Brenda.
Anyone else? No? Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Especially want to thank you, Michelle and Tammy, for really spearheading this and putting us on the forefront, getting a RON underneath our belt, continuing to be, moving forward with our technologies. And it says a lot about what we're doing here. And I strongly suggest that everybody reach out to your sales representative. We have our sales representatives on here, Carly and Jessica and Karen and myself. And I know that Michelle and Tammy are here for questions. So if you have any questions that you think of later, please reach out to one of us. We definitely want to be here to assist you and accommodate you of however we can moving forward with our new way of doing things for now. So thank you again, everybody, and let us know if you have any questions. Hope you had a good happy hour. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.